to really get that thing and be able to stand and do it, or stand and do it with your legs spread with a snarl on your face, you know. So and that was the thing with the Ramones, like no upstrokes, you know. Like, yeah, it's a lot easier to go like that on a fast song.
So when you started Heart Attack, how long had you been like performing? I mean, can you remember the first time that you actually played with another musician?
Well, you know, I had seen all these shows on TV, rock concerts and stuff, and little bits of bands doing a song on a variety show. And
Yeah.
so when I was 11, I got a guitar and I tried to take all those boring lessons. And by the time I was 12, the lessons got a little better, but I stopped trying to learn to play like Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, and I just got a few bar chords, and I was starting to hear the Ramones and AC/DC, and I thought, wow, I could write a couple songs, you know, with just a couple of these chords. So in one way, I was hyper and impatient and hungry. So I started writing my own stuff fast, but I didn't sit down and really learn all the theory and all the more technique that I wish I did. Years later, I worked on it, but I just jumped out the door with a couple chords, and I guess I went to whoever's house, and there was a kid in school that had like some drums in his basement, but he was a piano player. I was like, play the drums. You know, anybody we could find. You have the basement, you're the manager. You've got the drums, you're the drummer. And we started just doing that. I kind of probably bullied everybody into this doing this band, and then by the time the summer came around, we auditioned at CBGB's for the Monday night audition showcase. I called from the school payphone, and they let us come in and play with our little 12-year-old asses on that famous stage.
That's
And
nuts.
yeah, we failed the audition because, well, I think technically we really failed in this. In the real story is that we didn't bring anybody that drank, and now, you know, I know that the bar needs to make money. You need to bring some punters, as you guys say. We didn't bring anybody. We're 12 years old. We were just scared to be on the Bowery. But they told us that we missed it, that punk was over. This is the early 80s, and that it all had happened already. It was done. And I should try something new, like New Romantic or Rockabilly or something. And I wasn't going to dress up as a pirate. And soon after, I walked further east to the east side of New York, Lower East Side Avenue A, and I saw flyers for groups like Bad Brains, Stimulators, and suddenly there were other kids coming out that wanted something raw and simple and fast. And there was some kind of collective unconscious feeling around the country. Reagan was the president. There was a nuclear arms race. Music was getting aggressive again. And this small cult culture called hardcore was building up with groups like Dead Kennedys and Minor Threat and Black Flag. And in New York, we had our scene with my band Heart Attack. So I did that for about 4 years. We put out 3 records, and I toured North America. Didn't really go to school much, but I learned a lot just being around people and seeing the world. So.
And so you started that when you were 12, which is crazy. And then you started playing the guitar when you were 11.
Yeah, yeah, pretty fast it went. You know, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't Rory Gallagher or Michael Schenker or anybody. You know, I was just playing some bar chords
Yeah,
and
but I like that. That's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because obviously I'm on this musical journey at the moment. Like, I don't know if John told you that, I during lockdown, I decided to teach myself how to play guitar because it's something I've always wanted to do. And I thought, I'll just make a YouTube series about it and chat to other guitarists and stuff like that. And it's been a bit embarrassing, because obviously I'm learning and then I'm playing in front of everyone and I'm pretty rubbish still. But that's kind of why I was thinking, well, in a way, punk is very like that. It's very, sort of makeshift and just get on and do it. It's an attitude thing as opposed to being technically fantastic.
sure. And so I think was rock and roll when it started with 3 chords coming out of the blues. You know,
Yeah.
the blues. You know, I think it's Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, Little Richard. Those are simple songs. Even on the piano, it's played very unique and passionate. But Jerry Lee Lewis, any of that stuff, it's 3 chords and attitude, like you said. You
Yeah. Is there anything you can show me?
know. Well, I got a guitar here. This is my red hummingbird.
Very
That
nice.
an older one. I don't collect stuff. I take stuff and I buy it and I use it. So I've had this for a while. Get the guitar in the picture.
How long have you had that one for?
Probably at least 12 years, maybe a little longer, maybe about 15. But yeah, simple stuff that, as far as how when I started out, you know, I was learning these bar chords,
Yeah.
and then the teacher was like, you got these chords and you can play rock and roll, whatever. But, one of the first songs I heard was the Ramones Blitzkrieg Bop, and it's just like, wow, it's three chords that I thought I could play. And everybody plays it. Everybody's kid is into the Ramones. But the thing was to do all downstrokes, because the records with the Ramones and Green Day and things like that is. You would sit around the house and try to build up that downstroke, to really get that thing and be able to stand and do it, or stand and do it with your legs spread with a snarl on your face, So, and that was the thing with the Ramones, like no upstrokes, Like, yeah, it's a lot easier to go like that on a fast song, but it sounds different. So
it sounds really different, actually. That just the down. I don't even know if I'd be able to do that.
I was kind of like wondering. I'm trying to keep the guitar in and see myself, but I was thinking about, I always get these weird things when I'm touring in a van, or think about where does this come from? Who invented this? The other day it was like, how did the Gang of Four get the idea to play like that? Who are they listening to? So I was wondered with the Ramones, they were into power pop, like, the Fruit Gum Association, Yummy, 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 I Got Love in My Tummy, or the Bay City Rollers. And of course they like the Beach Boys, and they like the Stooges, like they talked about it. But the Stooges is kind of grungy and so where's this downstroke thing coming from? And funny enough, to punk, maybe Led Zeppelin is a bad word, but on their first album, there's a punk song, Communication Breakdown, which is all downstrokes. It has that. So, somehow in a conversation, maybe with Joey Ramone's brother Mickey or somebody, it came up of like, yeah, like I was in a guitar store and some guy was playing Communication Breakdown. So that's one thing that I think that at a young age I learned, and it was simple, but it also had a certain craft to it and a certain muscle that you had to build. And even on the bass, like to be able to do that for a length of time, even for a full song. And then when hardcore came, it was playing faster, so now you brought in the up and down. So it was an up and down thing, but it was a lot faster. And then you had your skank parts. And it was this kind of movement, but like every fast song would go down to a skank part, but not like skank like a girl, like skank like, or a guy, like skank like reggae, like a down creepy crawl. And then explode into the... whatever. So it was like things that we had to kind of master. I don't go with
basically you listening to songs and then trying to figure out like, why does that sound like it sounds? Oh, I know, because they are just doing the downstroke, not up, down, up, down.
Right. And the bass doing the same thing, and the drums, and everything locking in as one machine, And everything becoming that force, which you hear like in Green Day or Rancid or, I guess so many people, all that stuff. But I think starting on maybe that first Ramones album. And on that first Ramones album, if you had a stereo and you put the balance on one side, you just heard the bass. And if you flipped it the other way, you just heard the guitar and the drums. But you could kind of sit there and like really focus in on like Dee Dee Ramone's bass playing. So... I don't think that's making sense.
You learned the best way because, you were thrown in at the deep end and you were just like learning with other musicians, which I think is probably, I would say 80% of being in a band. Like that's, if you don't know how to play with other musicians, you're buggered, aren't you, basically?
Yeah, playing with people, you kind of have a team thing, and you have the support, and you can learn and fall on each other, but you also have you know, someone that's giving you something else, their heartbeat, their rhythm, their take on music, and you play off each other. I think that's why I never liked jamming. I was like, oh, that's like a hippie thing, but there's something to get from, you know, going back and forth. And eventually jamming I got from, you know, hearing people play reggae or whatever, getting into a groove, you know. But yeah, we're sitting in Queens in the suburbs trying to learn, you know, all that like stuff from like the old rock, you know, yes, and you know, Stairway to Heaven and all that, and all these old songs. So it was like, no, I want to write my own stuff, and you know, just getting those few chords, you could kind of, you know, do it. But as you get older, you know, you need to play tricks on your brain, and I would, you know, tune my guitar different, or get a capo, which is this thing here. You throw it on the neck, and suddenly it plays tricks as a writer on your ear. You hear the guitar different, you know. You put the capo on, and it puts you in a different key than the same kind of fretboard. So you write different, and it kind of affects your voice in a different way because your ears hear it, and you might start singing in a different key and write in a different key. So the capo is neat for that and moving it around. But when you bring it on stage and you've written these songs in capos and you keep putting them on, you're in the middle of a set, they do affect like the way the guitar is tuned. So I would have to tune up to the capo if I was alone, solo, on a tour, in a theater, or opening for somebody. So when I was doing that, I would start to talk a little bit, and that's where some of the bits came in. I'd be nervous and opening up for, you know, the Counting Crows or somebody, and be just me. So I'd be changing my guitars. I didn't have a guitar tech, and then I would tune, and then I would get into telling some backstories or something personal or whatever about that day or about the song, and that became kind of part of my acoustic shows by necessity, you know.
Yeah. I love that. I love that, how that evolves like that. And you know, you talk about, you know, we talk about playing with other musicians. I mean, you've played with some pretty impressive musicians like Springsteen, Billy Joe Armstrong, Josh Homme, and it's like, I mean, not. I guess, what do you learn from that? Like when you're playing with, because they're all quite eclectic, aren't they? They're very different styles.
Everybody has a different energy, you know. I think that's the thing, you know. When I play with Bruce, you know, how giving he was and how strong of a player he was, because he called me up, and I just, you know, my manager, I'd met him once. The manager says, Bruce is going to call you and ask you something, and they didn't call, so I thought it was a joke, but he did eventually. And he's like, I want to play this holiday show in Asbury Park with me and the band, and it's a charity for Christmas, you know. And I was like, yeah, you know, I like some Christmas songs, and I'll do. He's like, no, we're going to play your songs. So to have his band with Max Weinberg and Nils and Bruce playing like a couple songs off my first record, just seeing how he approached it and attacked it with such energy and drive, and that he wasn't jaded, and he wasn't like some guy that could have like, yeah, I'm Bruce, I'll phone it in. He was like, he was in my band, and to see that, and to see the humbleness and the attentiveness and just down to earth, and the passion to still care about music at that point. That was something I got from Bruce, that he still listened to other artists, and he still could get excited, and even every time he plays. I mean,
Yeah.
And you know, and Billy Joe, you know, we've written together a song on my last record, and just to see how he thinks and how his eye for detail is, and just, you know, he has a confidence, but always has a sense of humor and a lot of heart in his observations, and a great melodic sense, really, you know, great sense of harmony, and also rhythmically too, because the guy initially was a drummer, I think, and there's just some kind of thing in the way he plays guitar and writes, but like being around someone like that, just there's a fearlessness in him and a comfortability in his voice and in what he does that's really, like, when you see that, I think a lot of it's like bravery. Like the night I was first getting on stage with Bruce Springsteen, I was in the sidelines, and there was like Bon Jovi and Danny DeVito and Sopranos and people.
Oh my God, we scared.
Yeah, so I'm about to walk up, and he's announcing me, and I'm like, you know what? Well, this is gonna be kind of scary. And I just sometimes, I guess, I don't know if actors do this, but I thought of, you know, something to give me the strength, you know, and what I thought of was, I had a friend that I'd known for about 10 years, another artist, Ryan Adams, who we were friends before he got real successful. And at this point in the early 2000s,
Your album, didn't he? Your first album.
my first record,
Solo album, yeah.
but at that point he was doing really well. And I remember about a year before I was up with Bruce, was watching Ryan. I was at my girlfriend's house at the time, and we're watching some special show, and he's up there doing Dead Flowers by the Stones with Keith and Willie Nelson, and who else was up there? One of the Hank Williams sons, and somebody else. It was like just insane, and he was just so comfortable, and he was like himself. And I was thinking to myself, well, if Ryan get up there with Keith and Willie Nelson and Hank the Third and all these people and just do it like that, fuck it, I can do it.
Just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, but also, like, wow, gets you a little competitive or a little like, all right, other people that do this and they're comfortable, so don't let get nervous be a thing. But Josh Homme is a creative player. You mentioned him, and he's just, he thinks very differently about the guitar, very angular to me. And even though he's like a heavy rock player, I think there's a lot of art in what he does, and just a very different way of looking at it. Maybe it's a desert thing or something, but I think he is just a really smart guy with a really eclectic taste and a collection of things in his head.
Maybe working with Iggy Pop has changed him a little bit as well. That's got to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, I know. That was Iggy's biggest selling record, apparently, that pop music, whatever it was called, but pop.
It's mental. Well, listen, it's been great chatting to you, and thank you for the tip. That's something that I never thought about. And my guitar teacher is always like, oh, up and down, up and down. I never thought, like, actually, I can just go down, down.
For the kind of, it really depends. It depends what you're going to do. And then sometimes a really good strum, like you hear those acoustics on some Beatles records, and the strum is really good, or That's Entertainment by The Jam is a really nice strum up and down that is, it really works that way, especially on an acoustic guitar, and that's a folkier thing. But if there's songs that are tough, and there's also letting things ring, and the Who are so great for that, but like leaving space too, hitting something and letting the rhythm section kind of follow it out, so just a couple bits, I don't know.
Great. Did you learn on acoustic, or have you ever played
I first had acoustic, but it was nylon string, and I was like so destined. I was like, I need an electric, and nobody wanted to pay for that until I could play Jingle Bells better. But I taped a microphone from an old reel-to-reel together that I found in my grandfather's basement, and I tried to just make it sound like, something electric, and eventually got a Japanese guitar for probably under $100 that was like a copy of a Les Paul, and that sufficed for a while. So, but that jump from acoustic to electric at that age is a big feeling.
Yeah, and also it's so much easier to play electric than acoustic. That's what I started on electric, then went and got an acoustic, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is hard. So I've gone back. I mix it up now.
Both. I don't want to go too far, but because I think we've said so much, but acoustic too is like having a full band in a way, though. There's like a drummer in there, and there's like with a good acoustic guitar, you get a lot out of it. So it's a good place to write. Yes,
I can imagine. I won't be writing yet. I'm just going to stick to a few chords.
I like your orange amp, and I like your attitude, and cool to talk to you.
Yeah, great to talk to you too, and good luck with everything. I can't wait to hear the new album once it's all done.
Okay, stay well, stay healthy.
Yeah, you too. All Thanks a lot. See ya. Bye.